So I thought, well, maybe I'll just go there. And it was just a crazy thing, the craziest thing I've ever done, but I decided to go for it. In the process, when I arrived here, found a little Airbnb nearby. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know anyone, but I went to the church, the little church in the middle of this little mountain town, and sat there on the church steps and just soaked in the reality that this would have been exactly the place where my great-grandparents would have probably been baptized, where people in my family would have gotten married. It was just overwhelming. I couldn't believe I had made it all the way to the other side of the world, to the exact town where my very, very brave immigrant ancestors had left as teenagers to come to go make a life in the United States. I kind of was looking around the church and still feeling like, man, I don't know if there's anyone left that are still part of the family. I don't even know why I'm here. What am I doing here? And so in the process of going on this trip, before I left, I was trying to research, how does this cousin with the last name Sabini, how is she related to me? In that process, met someone online who had been to Montegroppo, who is a Sabini, and he told me this neat story that at the very top of the hill in Montegroppo, there's some modern windmills, and also there's this tiny old chapel there. And he said that chapel was really important. It's the place where whenever a family member was about to leave to immigrate to go to America, the whole family would walk up this road to this chapel, and they would, go with them to that point and wave and say goodbye as they went down the other side of the mountain to the sea. So that spot where the chapel is the dividing line between Emilia-Romagna region and Liguria. That story was so powerful to me, and I thought, oh, I'd love to find that chapel and see it. So as I'm walking behind the church, I see at the top of the mountain, there you can actually see them right now, those big windmills that he had talked about. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna walk up there. So I start walking. I looked on my Google Translate and I formulated this little sentence in Italian that says, Voglio conoscerti la mia famiglia, guidami, parlami, which means, I want to know you, my family, I want to know you. Guide me, speak to me. And I walked up this exact road. I prayed that, I just kept speaking it. Voglio conoscerti la mia famiglia, parlami, guidami. Could they have lived somewhere like this? This is so beautiful. How could they have left this gorgeous mountain valley to come to California? What was that like for them? So I'm walking. It turned out to be a 3-mile walk up this windy, steep road, and I sort of unexpectedly see someone in their driveway, and he doesn't see me yet, but he lets out a loud belch, and I just kind of felt embarrassed, and then he turned around and I'm right there, and I said, buongiorno, and I just kept walking. Well, I get all the way up to the top, I see the chapel, but I'm just like, well, I made it, took some pictures, and I start to walk back down. Right then, that same man who had belched was in the car. He had driven all the way up to the top. I think maybe he was concerned about me, this woman walking alone up on this road. So he's speaking fast in Italian. I say my little sentence I had practiced. La mia bisnonna nate in Alboreto. My great-grandmother was born in Alboreto, her name was, and my great-grandfather was born in this town, and this was his name. And he kind of shook his head like he didn't know those people. And as he drove off, it was like, oh well, no one remembers. I felt kind of discouraged. And I could see his car winding down the road. All of a sudden, I see him stop, turn around, and come back real fast. And then he's speaking really fast. And then he's saying, in Italian, talking, he's saying, Luigi Scarpente. And he said Scarpentry, and I thought, what? He recognizes, he remembers someone in my family. And as he's talking, I pull out the letters out of my backpack that I had brought with me of my cousins who had written to my parents. And I asked him, what's your name? There are only 2 people I knew might still be alive that were connected to my family, is Ivo and Ubaldo Sabini. So I was gonna maybe ask if he knew them. But before I could even get that far, I found out that I was speaking to Ubaldo Sabini. So I was just in shock. I show him the letter that his mother had written to my mother. So I'm holding it. And he's talking and talking. I can't understand what he's saying. But I jumped right in the car. He drove me to his house, which is right there. His mother was still alive, who was 86 years old. He brought me in the home. I could hardly understand anything that they were saying, but I was crying. I could not believe it. I had found my family. So I later came back with a translator that I had met in town the day before, and I was able to discover through listening to my 86-year-old second cousin, her grandfather, who is Antonio Scarpenti, is my great-great-grandfather. And she told the story that he left Montegroppo for San Jose, to go and make some money working on a ranch. And he came back to Italy with enough money to build the family a home. Then he later sent two of his sons, one of which was my great-grandfather, Luigi Scarpenti, to go to America. And Luigi stayed, and that's the reason that Luke and I are here today, because he made that decision to leave this little town in Italy and go try and make a life for himself. So it's just wild as Luke and I are here taking this place in to realize we wouldn't have been born. Luke and I were born in San Jose. We wouldn't have been born if it wasn't for him and Marina, his later the woman he married, who also grew up here, that they decided to, at 17 and 19, leave everything they knew, this gorgeous place, and go set out for America. And I don't really know the details of all of that story, but it just has been the most amazing experience to get to meet our family. They have welcomed us with such love. Yeah, it's been incredible. We've had the most amazing time here. It's been so neat having Luke getting to meet them, and slowly we're reweaving those connections between the family in America and the family here in Italy, and it's just like been the biggest honor of my life.
Non solo quando non mi ricordo più uno quando era arrivata questa. Non mi ricordo più uno.
When I was here in Montegroppo 3 years ago, I came to this town because I knew that my great-grandmother Maria Ferrari and Luigi Scarpenti were born in Montegroppo. And I didn't know if I would find anyone, but I was just trying to find family. And I was walking up this road and I saw Ubaldo, and never realizing that in this house in Italy, here's a picture of Luke and I. And now we're here. I can't believe it.
The crazy thing is we keep telling ourselves, first of all, where are we? We're up in the mountains in Italy, beautiful, on the other side of the world. We keep reminding ourselves we're in Italy. And then what's crazy is we wouldn't be here if our great grandparents wouldn't have left for San Jose from this very spot.
Our great great grandfather hadn't left, and he did so that he could afford to build this house that's right behind us.
Which is
and
so
if he had chosen somewhere else, we wouldn't have been here, or but the reason that we ended up in California is because he left and went there to find opportunity. But it's just amazing to be standing in the spot where, for sure, our ancestors once stood, and to be standing in front of the house that Antonio Scarpenti, our great-great-grandfather, built, and to just, I wonder if he can see his great-great-grandchildren coming back to this place and having gratitude for all of his sacrifice and the hard work that he put into this place for his family. We are the result of that hard work.
Very grateful to be here.
It's powerful. This is powerful.